when a $1 trillion trade surplus shakes the world. What China presents is not a bill for reparations, but more than 100 warships in the Western Pacific and thousands of vertical launch cells. At this moment, the meaning of building J-20 stealth fighters, the Fujian aircraft carrier, and Dongfeng missiles has never been clearer. If you possess the largest trade surplus in history, earning money from the entire world, yet lack advanced weapons to protect yourself, the great powers will storm into your home, seize your wealth, and carve away your land. By contrast, if your warships can blanket the oceans, your missiles can reach across the globe, and your bombers can fly to others' doorsteps, then the robbers will begin to reflect on a different question. Why don't you like them anymore? As China reclaims its position as the most profitable country in history with a $1 trillion surplus, more than 100 Chinese warships, without exercise notices, without advance warnings, and without diplomatic signals, suddenly spread across the entire Western Pacific. The great powers that once saw China as a fat pig instantly saw things with startling clarity. Japan fell silent. The US military retreated several steps. Europe began painful self-reflection. Why don't the Chinese want to do business with Europe anymore? Looking back at late Qing China, it was an empire so wealthy that the entire world coveted it. From 1700 to 1830, the Qing dynasty accumulated an astonishing trade surplus of 362,400 million taels of silver. Global silver flowed into China like a tide, exchanged for Chinese tea, silk, and porcelain. China produced 1/3 of the world's economic output, unquestionably the world's largest economy and the most profitable trading nation. China was rich, overflowing with wealth, but it had no fangs, no claws, only fat that made others jealous. So Europe stopped doing business and instead blasted open China's doors with gunboats, looting its wealth. From 1840 onward came unequal treaties, astronomical reparations, and vast territorial losses. The old summer palace was burned, treasures looted, the Yongle encyclopedia stolen. China knelt, vomiting up more than a century of accumulated silver, principal, interest, blood, and tears, while losing vast ancestral lands. Wealth without guns makes you livestock in the eyes of robbers. Your wealth is not a shield, it is a death warrant. Your surplus is not proof of strength. It is a slab of meat every robber wants to carve. How brutal was that history? So brutal that the treasury was drained dry. So brutal that the people were ravaged by drugs. So brutal that the capital was occupied and imperial gardens burned. So brutal that hundreds of unequal treaties were forced upon the nation. Now, more than a century later, China's surplus exceeds $1 trillion. And China once again stands at the center of global wealth flows. History still rhymes, but it no longer repeats. Today's China holds the world's largest foreign exchange reserves and trade surplus in its left hand, and the world's most powerful military machine in its right. China possesses the world's largest and most advanced fleet of fifth-generation fighters. The J-20 surpasses the US F-22 in both quantity and quality. China's sixth-generation aircraft have directly knocked Europe and the US off the summit of high technology. China's hypersonic weapons can penetrate the most advanced Western air defenses, while their missiles cannot reach China's doorstep. China's drone swarms, from high-altitude long-endurance WZ-8 South to battlefield-denial GJ-11s, form a system of systems that renders the battlefield one-way transparent. China's 3 aircraft carriers, Liaoning and Shandong, operating regularly in distant seas, and the newest Fujian equipped with electromagnetic catapults, have vaulted China straight into the world's top carrier club. China also fields the 10,000-ton Type 055 destroyers, globally unique shipborne electromagnetic weapons, and Dongfeng missiles capable of global delivery. This is the most powerful military force in the history of Chinese civilization. It does not seek hegemony, but it makes one thing unmistakably clear, especially to Western powers accustomed to plunder. Every cent of China's wealth is under absolute protection. If anyone still wants to steal it, China might lose some money, but it will not be reparations. It will be your funeral expenses. Thus, when China Customs announced the record $1 trillion surplus in 2025, the Chinese Navy provided the most shocking annotation. 7 naval task groups, together with the Coast Guard, more than 100 vessels, scattered like stars across the East China Sea, South China Sea, and deep into the Pacific. Liaoning transited the Miyako Strait, with fighters taking off and landing east of the Ryukyu Islands. Shandong pushed deeper into the Western Pacific. An amphibious group led by Type 075 ships advanced toward Palau, pointing directly at Guam, the core of the second island chain. A dynamic steel web enveloped the first and second island chains the US had cultivated for decades. Waters where a few gunboats once forced China to cede land now host Chinese carrier strike groups. Straits that once saw China's gates blasted open now lie fully within the range of Chinese carrier aviation. This is the most direct expression of doing business with a sword. Our merchant fleets sell goods worldwide and earn massive surpluses. Our warships appear simultaneously along every critical sea lane, ensuring absolute security. If you want to touch our trade routes or steal our wealth, ask the Fujian first, then ask the Dongfeng missiles. 100 warships span the seas, the Chinese banner darkens the sky. When the Western Pacific filled with Chinese warships, the West finally woke up. Japan's former clamor dissolved into protests and anxiety. The US military stepped back, claiming it would refocus on the Americas. Europe, once the most ruthless plunderer of China, sank into deep reflection. In the past, when they couldn't compete commercially, they sent warships to force China's doors open. Today, facing chilling Dongfeng missiles, a single Type 055 capable of crushing a small country, and China's unfathomable military-industrial Cthulhu, Europe, defeated by Chinese manufacturing, no longer dares to send armies to seize China's wealth. Instead, they send journalists asking awkwardly, "Why don't you like doing business with Europe anymore? What is China still dissatisfied with?" This is no joke. Recently, Financial Times journalist Robin Harding traveled to China, repeatedly asking economists, tech leaders, and business figures, what does China actually want to import from Europe? The answers left him despairing. Soybeans and iron ore. That's the Americas and Australia. Cars. Chinese EVs are sweeping Europe. High-end technology. China is pushing full self-reliance. Nearly 80% of this $1 trillion surplus comes from high-tech products. The conclusion was brutal. In the future, China may not need to buy much from Europe at all. Instead, Europe may need China to invest, build factories, and buy Chinese goods. The realization plunged Europe into anxiety. Why is their manufacturing competitiveness fading? Why do Chinese goods dominate the world, while China no longer favors European products? When $1 trillion surplus and 100 warships appear together, Europeans finally understand. It's not that Chinese people dislike European manufacturing. It's that China is now manufacturing everything itself without fear of being robbed. Once they saw Leiqing China as a fat pig dripping with wealth. Now they see China as a sword-wielding giant of unfathomable power. How could their eyes not clear? How could their thoughts not grow complex? They finally understand that the era when a few gunboats could force open China's gates is gone forever. Today, China's ability to earn wealth is world-class, and so is its ability to protect it. In the face of absolute strength, the logic of robbery collapses. This is the deepest contrast of our time, history resonating violently across the scales. One end is 1840, mountains of silver, rivers of opium, a feeble navy crushed by steam gunboats, treaties soaked in blood. The other end is 2025, $1 trillion surplus. 7 naval formations embedded like steel constellations in the Western Pacific. The roar of stealth fighters as the sea and sky's familiar soundtrack. Same China. Same global earnings, entirely different fate. China never forgot the sinking of Shenyuan and Jiwan, so today it has Liaoning, Shandong, and Fujian. China never forgot the humiliation of the Opium War, so today it has a navy spanning the Western Pacific and Dongfeng missiles covering the globe. It took China 185 years to travel from fat pig to steel behemoth. The cost was tens of millions of lives, oceans of blood and tears, and a civilization nearly lost to darkness. All those lessons have crystallized into what we see today. The deck of the Fujian, the afterburners of the J-20, the arcs of Dongfeng missiles across the sky. Their ultimate purpose has never been clearer: to ensure the flames lit at Humen in 1839 never burned China again. To ensure the fires of the old summer palace in 1860 remain forever in history books. So when $1 trillion surplus shakes the world, China answers not with reparations, but with over 100 warships and thousands of launch cells in the Western Pacific. China is using carriers, stealth fighters, and missiles to build the hardest possible foundation beneath the words trade surplus. China can now earn openly and develop safely. Anyone who wants to replay 1840 should first ask whether they can break through the steel ocean China has laid across the Western Pacific in 2025. This is the answer handed in by China's generation.